Hey everybody, today we're going to look at a Silvertone Model 6293 automobile radio. It was made in 1949 and it runs off of 6 volts. It's not your standard 12 volts. And this radio, as you see it here, was given to me by our good friend John from Arkansas, who received it from a friend of his. And the plan on this one is we're going to restore it and we're going to sell it again on eBay, and all the proceeds will go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So that's the plan on this one. And I got to tell you, this one is a mess. Needs a lot of work. But I've fortunately done a lot of the work already, so I spare you all the recapping and things. Matter of fact, here's the bag of fallen soldiers. We'll get to that in a little while. But I've replaced most of the components that need to be replaced, and I did get the radio to play. But this radio is a little unique, and simply because it is all tube. And if you want to take a peek at the chassis really quick, you'll see right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tubes and a vibrator. And we'll talk a little bit about that vibrator in a moment. It's kind of unusual for a car radio, so I've not seen one like this. Anyway, we're going to get it back to its glory so that we can raise some money for the kids. But let's talk a little bit about how this thing works. So as I stated, this thing has something called a vibrator in it. It's right here. This is the one that was in there, and it's bad. I've tested it. Now typically what's in here is a reed, like so. Let me show you. So there's a little electromagnet up here, and there's a contact here, and a contact here, and then there's another contact here, another one here. And when you apply power to this thing, what happens is this reed goes like this, and it like that, and it creates pulsing DC. That's what this radio requires, and it uses that and it steps it up to get your B+. It's essentially what it does. Well, unfortunately, these things are mechanical and they pit, so that's what happens. This thing, if you want to see what's inside one of these, I've got one here. This is another one. You'll see the metal can is coated with a experimental rubber. I'm not sure what they used back then, as it's sound deadening. And then here's the actual device. Here's the reed I told you about, and it goes back and forth, and you'll see the contacts like that. It's a pretty simple concept. The only problem is these contacts are no good. They go bad. So, how do you know if this thing's work or not? Well, we use something called a vibrator tester. Let me show you what it looks like. This is a vibrator tester. It's a Sencor model VB2, and basically you put it in your tube checker and you set it for a 6AX4 or a 6SN7, and you plug in your 3-prong vibrator or your 4-prong vibrator. Our radio has 4, and if it's good, these 2 lights will light. That's how it works. And it says it right here. If the lights are brilliant, the same brilliant, they're good, both lights. If you have uneven brilliance, it's questionable, and if one or both don't light, reject. Well, our vibrator is dead, nothing, 0, which means it's not moving. So, how do we get around that? Well, I did take a look on eBay for vibrators to find out what I could do with this thing. And I determined that I don't need to put a vibrator in there. They now make something called an electronic vibrator. And there's a negative ground and a positive ground version. And there's the website I got it from. And basically, it's a kit that you build. I have one here. This is the positive ground one. I wasn't sure which one I wanted. And it's basically a circuit board, like so. Got minimal components on it. Pretty easy. I'll show you the one that's in the radio in a moment. And we built this. It's not mechanical. It'll last forever. It does a great job. So let's take a peek at the radio itself, and then I'll show you the case and all the things that I need to do to it. So let's get that set up. Okay, here's the radio, and you'll see it has a built-in speaker. That's good. Here's all our tubes right here. And here's the, let's get a little closer to that. Here's the electronic vibrator that I showed you, built and installed. I put it into a standard socket like this, plugs right in where the other one was. This thing will generate a little bit of heat right here, but it's fine. It works well. And the radio itself is in fairly decent shape. There's a little bit of rust that I need to put some rust reformer on, like right there. But in general, it works really well. If you look at the controls in the front, you have your typical on-off volume right here. Here's your tuning, and you'll see the tuning capacitor move when I turn that. And then you have a tone switch right here. These two screws are for an external speaker. Let's take a peek on the other side. Okay, here's the bottom side, and you'll see that I've already done all the recapping. Everything that needed to be changed has been changed, and it's a really unique design. See this little bracket right here? Well, this is where the AC, this is not the AC, this is where the 6 volts comes in. There's actually a screw that goes through the case, which I'll show you in a moment, and there's a wire attached to it, and that's where the power comes into the radio. When I got this one, the terminal strip was broken, this thing was flopping around, so we fixed that. These are chokes, filter chokes, and everything else is pretty good. I have a few resistors I want to change, haven't done it yet. We've disconnected our cap can. It's a multi-cap can, and we've put our capacitors in there, so we're good. Let's see, what else can I show you? There's the antenna, and look, Bill, dial string. This was a trick. See that spring there? That spring was broken, so I had to fix that, and we've got it working fairly well. I'm pretty happy with it. It turns, it works. And this is a flexible arm here, flexible cam. So when you turn this, it turns. That's pretty much it. Works really well. And there's a dial pointer right here. If we turn that, it works. It wasn't working before, and I want to talk about that and explain that too. So let me show you the case. Let's do that now. Okay, here's the case, and you'll see it's in rough shape. A lot of rust, a lot of pitting. Needs a lot of work. There's a dial glass that goes here. We'll talk about that in a moment. There's a faceplate that goes here. I've taken that all off to restore it. And you'll see it's pretty rough. It needs some love for sure. Here's the back. You'll see there's air holes here. This is the wire that goes in to power it. I'll show you how that looks in a moment. And then we have a little label on the side here. So let's take a peek at how this thing gets power. So you'll see inside there's a schematic, which I'm going to try to preserve. It's pretty beat up, but I'll try to preserve it. But here's how the power comes into this thing. So this wire attaches to your battery. It goes to this rivet here, to this metal plate. Right? This metal plate will be energized with 6 volts. This hole right here is where that bracket that I showed you attaches, that was broken. It attaches here with a screw right here. Now, I'm probably going to need to remove this. I don't trust this insulating material. If this insulating material breaks down, you're going to short. It's not a good thing. So I'm probably going to end up removing this and redoing it and making sure I've got a good insulating material in there. But that's essentially what we're looking at. It looks like it's a copper type cover. I'm not sure what it's made of. It doesn't feel like copper. But I do see some green here, so it's possible that it could be. So we're going to strip this thing, we're going to repaint it and put it back together and make it look really nice. Let's talk about the faceplate. So let me pick this camera up a little bit. So here's the faceplate, or where it goes anyway. And it actually goes like this. And the faceplate was really, really bad when I got it. Well, look what I've done. I've cleaned it up. Looks like new. Shines really nice. Looks really good. The faceplate goes here, just like that. And there may be a little bit too much glare on that. I don't know. Anyway, that's how it goes. So the faceplate's been cleaned. The problem with this is that the dial plastic is cracked. I don't know if you could see that. It's right here. See that line there? It's cracked, so we have to make a new piece of dial. I was going to try to find one and buy it, decided not to do that. I'm going to make my own. So I bought a small piece of PETG thermoform plastic. It's 0.02 thickness. And what I did was I made a template out of a piece of plexiglass. It's rigid. And I made the template to fit inside here, like this, just like that. And what we're going to do when I do this operation is we're going to take this faceplate, we're going to put the piece of plexi on it, we're going to heat it up, and then we're going to push this down inside this hole and form it. Should be pretty simple. This thing is not very thick. See that? There's literally no thickness to this thing, so it should be a fairly easy operation. So this will just go in here like this, and we'll push down. Then all we have to do is cut it to size, cut the holes for the controls, and then we can remount it back on the radio. It remounts back on the radio with these rivets. I'm going to replace them as well. So that's how we're going to handle that. The other thing I want to show you is the dial itself. Here's the dial. A lot of glare. Okay. Well, this dial has shrunk over the years. And when I got the radio, the first thing I noticed was that the dial pointer wasn't turning. Well, that's because this thing shrunk a little bit, and this little hole was in the wrong spot, so it was compressing on the pointer itself. So I'm going to have to remount this thing. I was going to try to print a new one, but I decided not to. I can remount this and reuse it. Just clean it up a little bit. If I need to make a new one, I will. All I'll really do is print a decal with the color, just like it is. It's very easy to reproduce. And I'll put it on a piece of lampshade material, and that'll work just fine. But I'm going to try to use this one. So that's what we're looking at here, guys. So let's turn this thing on and show you what it sounds like, and then we'll talk about what our next steps are. Okay, let's get ready to test the radio. So we've got everything connected. We've got it hanging over here because I don't want anything to get restricted. We've got our connections. We've got our antenna. Oh, we just lost our ground connection. See? Let's put that on again. Okay. Here's our regulated power supply. Radio is off. We're going to turn it on. Make sure we're at 6 volts. We're not exceeding it. Alright, 6 volts on the nose. Let's turn on the radio and see what we get. You'll see right there's a dial light. That's good news. You'll see our tubes are lighting up. Let's turn this light off. And we have some sound. So you'll see it works really well. It's nice sound. Here's the tone control. Pretty basic. And that vibrator module does a really good job. It's quiet as can be. If we were using a regular vibrator module, this thing would be kind of loud. You would hear like that. So radio works really well. So our next step is going to be to fix the dial glass, the dial plastic. Then we're going to start working on the case. And the next time you see this thing, it's going to be put back in the case and it'll all be painted. We're just going to make this a short 2-episode series. And we're going to make sure that this thing is ready for sale so that we can make some money for charity. So I'll put a link to the schematic in the video so that you can take a peek at it if you'd like. It's really basic. Very tight underneath there. Not much going on, but it's tight. And that's pretty much the story, guys. So stay tuned for the next episode. And again, thank you to our good friend John from Arkansas for making this available to sell for charity. So anyway, you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.